Well, a little more than a month ago, the PGA Tour announced Brian Rolapp as the Tour's new CEO. His first official day on the job is right now, today. Rolapps takes on the role as Commissioner Jay Monahan is set to step away from the Tour at the end of 2026. And Rolapp getting into the action on day one, tweeting, "Day one at the PGA Tour, grateful for the opportunity and excited to listen and learn. You can expect a care package of some branded apparel on your desk when you get there, Mr. Rolapp." And gets into Damon. It looks like yet another leadership change in the landscape of golf. What do you see on the horizon for Brian Rolapp?
No, Brian comes from the NFL. The NFL shield is recognizable around the world. 2005 was the first time the NFL played internationally, one game. 2025, there will be 7 international games on the NFL schedule, 3 in London. You got Dublin, places like Sao Paulo, Madrid as well. I just wonder, is there something that the PGA Tour can learn from that? You see Rory McIlroy talking about South Africa, in Australia, that there may be opportunities for expansion in a time where it seems like the Tour is being more looking inward. I just don't know if that's an opportunity for the Tour, and maybe that Brian will think that's an opportunity to exploit. Maybe most importantly, the playoffs have been huge business for the NFL. By their own admission, PGA Tour players would tell you, at least Lucas Glover will, the playoffs have been wanting on the PGA Tour. So maybe there's an opportunity for Brian to massage the postseason in a way that's more palatable to the golf fan.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Rolapps' priorities are. I think he has to start with building relationships. He's not of the golf industry.
Right.
So he doesn't really know anyone in the golf industry. So he's got to sort of build those relationships with stakeholders. Start with Jack Nicklaus. Go to Florida, meet Jack, then meet FedEx, meet the sponsors, meet the tournaments, meet the players, meet the fans. You can't overlook the fact that the fans are the biggest stakeholders in this game, and he has to be accessible to that. But I also think he has to prioritise spending the SSG money, the private investor money that came into the Tour a year and a half ago. It's a $1.5 billion, has not yet been spent. So he has to develop a plan and execute on that as well. I think to your point about the international aspect, he really does need to consolidate a deal with the DP World Tour and kind of figure out how that is leveraged into this kind of international schedule that guys talk about a lot. I also think he has to, the trickiest things is fix the balance of power on the PGA Tour right now, because Jay Monahan spent his authority with the players with the signing of the framework agreement. It cost him a lot of trust with the players. It cost him a lot of authority. Brian Rolapp comes in with a lot of authority, and what he's going to face is players who think they are executives and investors who think they are day-to-day managers. And the Tour is going to suffer from both of those. So Brian Rolapp, I think, has to reassert executive function at the PGA Tour, that he's there to make the decisions, he's there to run the business on a day-to-day basis. It's not the players on the board, nor is it the minority private investors who run. And of course, the PIF deal is out there as well. And at a certain point, I'd be curious to see if he sees that as something that's, you know, the quagmire that the previous administration got bogged down in, and it hasn't really gone anywhere. Is it a failed exercise at this point now, more than 2 years after the framework agreement has been signed? And if he has momentum, he has a product that is working, he should cut bait, stop treating LIV as a serious competitor, stop treating it as anything more than a distraction, dismiss it with the derision it deserves and move on.
Well, there is murkiness, I feel, in the messaging from the PGA Tour, where that wasn't always the case. It was, these guys are good. That was how they play, and also their off the golf course charitable contributions. I think in the last couple of years, that's been lost a little bit, in part because, listen, they were, you know, pillaged basically by this rival league. Thought about fighting them, thought about joining them. Now we don't really know where things stand. With all the talk about money and players leaving, I think some of the messaging has been lost, and some of the fans are probably confused. What is the PGA Tour story? That is also going to be top of mind for Brian Rolapp and the rest of his executives down in Ponte Vedra Beach. What is the PGA Tour story? What is the message they want to tell the mom and pop in Austin, Texas, and in Dubuque, and in Van Nuys, California? What is the PGA Tour story? Is it charity? Is it our guys are good? or is it about putting the zeros and zeros and zeros on the paycheck? Be careful talking about all that money. You have to talk about things outside the ropes that I think the fans can relate and connect to.
And pretty crucially, that's something that Brian Rolapp can actually control, is his own narrative. What he can't control is the whims of Yasser Al-Rumayyan at the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, and maybe it's time to stop worrying about things like that. We're going to continue this discussion now with another Golf Today roundtable as we welcome in golfchannel.com senior writers Rex Hoggard and Ryan Lavner. Rex, I want to start with you on this Brian Rolapp situation. He's in the office today, first day on the job. What do you think his priorities ought to be?
Eamon, I think I'm going to agree with you right off the top. I think Brian has to come in and figure out how to bring the best players in the world back together again. The PGA Tour's own initiative, Fan Forward, that's what the fans wanted. They wanted to see the best players playing together more often. And right now, it's more than 260 days until we get to the Masters that's going to happen. I think it's going to continue to be a problem. And to your point, I feel like the PGA Tour and the Public Investment Fund are further from that now than they were even before the framework agreement. At least before the framework agreement, we knew they weren't talking. We knew there was legal challenges. We knew there was contentiousness. Now we've had 2 years of talks, and it feels worse because they have gone absolutely nowhere, and there doesn't seem to be an ending in sight. And I think that's a problem he's going to have to tackle. And then the other one is, which you also mentioned, is about the SSG investment. During his introductory press conference at the Travelers Championship a few weeks ago, it was the one answer you saw his eyes light up. This is his wheelhouse. This is what he did at the NFL. He was in charge on some level with the investments of the money from each team, and he clearly has ideas. He said as much. He didn't give away any secrets, but that's something that I think he's going to focus on early as well. The other side of this is I don't think he's going to spend much time worrying about pace of play. I don't think he's going to spend much time worrying about what the format is of the Tour Championship. He's going to leave that to people who know the golf better. He made it perfectly clear. Brought him in. He's a business guy. He's going to innovate and improve the business.
Lav, what do you think? Besides watching this very program right now, what should Brian's priority be on this Monday?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's been said already. Obviously, the $1.5 billion investment, at least the PGA Tour leadership has been very coy about how they want to dispense that capital. But obviously, that's going to do a lot in terms of shaping the future of the PGA Tour. You mentioned how to get all of the best players together, even if it is on a limited basis. That is what the fans are telling the PGA Tour they want, how to figure out sort of a pathway forward, even if, again, it's on sort of a partial basis, I think is really important. And then the media rights deal on the horizon. Brian Rolapp was the chief negotiator for the NFL with their TV contracts that totaled $110 billion. Golf is not going to demand or summon that sort of fund when the deal comes up in 2030. But that was a big reason why Brian Rolapp was brought in, because those negotiations are going to start in the next couple of years. How can the PGA Tour best position itself for the future? He's going to have a heavy say in that.
Rex, do you think positioning the tour in the best position possible includes expanding more globally? As I mentioned, that NFL shield is recognizable around the world. We've heard Rory talk about opportunities in Australia and South Africa. Do you think that that should be a part of the PGA Tour playbook going forward?
I think it is, and more importantly, I think Guy Kinnings thinks it is. I had a conversation with him during the Open Championship and at the Scottish Open about this very topic. You look at the success of the Scottish Open on the tour schedule. Now, granted, it fits into a perfect time the week before the Open. It gives players a reason to go over and play that event. But Guy was real quick to point out the Irish Open also gives them a reason to come over. The BMW PGA, the European Tour's flagship event, this is a partner that you two together, the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour together, can build something very special when it comes to an international schedule. I will say, if you look at the history of the PGA Tour, they have always been reluctant to embrace international markets for a variety of reasons. Look at the World Golf Championships. Got to the point where none of them were played overseas. I think that's going to be thinking that they're going to have to move on from, because growth in the United States is probably not at the ceiling, but you're going to reach a point where you're not going to grow as much. Growth internationally, I think that's open.